Hello, everybody. This is Dirty Dutch Mantel, and you're listening to In Your Head Radio.
I'm looking forward to putting on my marching boots and heading north, mate, from Florida to New England for the FanFest. And it sounds like it's got some of the greatest names in our business today, right there in New England next Saturday.
Yeah, well, it's actually coming up June 21st.
June 20th, sorry, 2 weeks, 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, so you got a little bit of time. You can come here early, though. There's a lot to do in New England.
Yeah, hey, mate, it's a long march, mate.
Yeah,
it's a long march.
Yeah, you're marching all the way from New Zealand up to New England.
Yeah, that's right, mate.
So yeah, but I don't blame you, Sons. Now you wrestled all over the world. How are the fans different to wrestle for in front of up in New England as opposed to other parts of the country, other parts of the world?
Well, New England was one of the Bushwhacker hot spots for many years. And in the 80s, and that I was coming up from Texas. We were running our tapes around New Hampshire, around Rhode Island, and that Southwest tapes there. So I was coming up as a sheepherder in those days too, from 83 onwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was working in the northern parts of New England and that, but the Boston area and around that area was great Bushwhacker territory.
Mm-hmm.
The great wrestling fans, the old Boston Gardens used to rock and roll. Even the new one does, but many memories from the old place.
Yeah, I grew up here in Massachusetts, and I was at the old Boston Garden many times. It's a great place to see wrestling. And I'd never had my head licked by you, though. It was,
Yeah, you never had your head licked. Well, mate, there's always a first.
There is indeed.
A great fan, so, that's what the old Boston Tea Party was. A cup of tea, mate, afternoon tea.
Exactly. The Boston Tea Party, have some tea, lick some heads. It's going to be good times. Had you ever been in the ring with somebody who was opposed to having their head licked, like another wrestler?
Well, we never licked too many wrestling guys' head. It was always the fans.
Yeah, you never know where those wrestlers were.
We used to march down the aisle and then lick a few hands, shake a few hands, and hit the ring.
Yeah, because you never knew where the wrestler might have been, where their head was. So you didn't want to lick that.
Yeah, no, but those were the good days, mate. But I'm still doing it. Last weekend, last weekend, I was in Mobile, Alabama, around there. And the weekend before, I was just at Diana's, where she's back up there, and I was in Alberta, Canada. I worked 3 towns from the old Stampede Wrestling days. The towns reminded me right back when I first come to North America. And that was in 1972.
Wow. So you...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No.
And I wrestled, and I was in, Edmonton, Stu's big town was of Calgary, of course, and I worked in Edmonton, and I worked in Red Deer. So, it was good old times. Like when I heard Diana's voice, I heard you say we'd go to a break and come back, but I had to say hello to her, because she just, I see Harry now and again, but she moved back to Canada. She was living down in Florida here.
Mm-hmm.
But she's moved back to that's where her roots are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very cool. You said hello. You were very well behaved. You didn't say anything beforehand, and then it came up, and so it was a good time to say hello, I think.
Yeah, it was a good time. And then I know in the family, they were kids. They were all kids in there when I first went there.
Yeah.
Brett didn't go in the ring till 78, 79, and I came back to do 6 weeks, and that's when Dynamite Kid first arrived first arrived in Canada. The Dynamite Kid is the British Davy's partner.
Yeah, definitely.
And Davy came a year or two later than Dynamite. And so, Dynamite was our partner for 6 weeks when I came back in the territory. Mm-hmm. This was well before Davy even came over there. And we worked matches against the Hearts. 2 matches were with actually Dad. Stu was in the big show in Edmonton and Calgary, and those 8 weeks I was there. But I was there in that territory for 18 months. In 73, 74, I was there for 18 months then.
Yeah. Now, Dynamite Kid's a guy that a lot of people, pattern their style after. Very influential in wrestling. Could you see that right away? This is a different style of wrestling. This guy's something special.
No. I just come to think of it, just before I go way back in history, when I saw Benoit work the first time, well, I met him in Japan. Mm-hmm. He was in a dojo with another American, and they were living over it, and I saw him work there. But then when he came back, and he was with WCW, I watched him a bit. But when he came out of WWF, I actually, I studied him and I saw there was another Dynamite Kid. And then I found out that that was his idol, and he followed him. He was the second Dynamite Kid, mm-hmm. Benoit. With the flying headbutts. But yeah, going back to the first question, I was in Calgary, and Butcher Me were the smallest guys. Everyone else, there was Abdullah. John Quinn was 6'5", maybe 6'6", 320. Abdullah, he's 6'2", and around about 375 those days. This was going back before he got really big. 350. And the Mongolian Stova, he was another heel there. He was about 360. Then it came to Butcher Me. Butcher was about 340, and I was about 315, 320 then. And we were the smallest guys in the territory when we left, and we left there in 74, I think, around 74. Hence, we come to get this window in 79 that were between two territories. We're going to Japan, and we had 6 or 8 weeks off between starting in another territory. And I called Stu up, and he said, "Come in," and that. And I came back in. I'm in the dressing room in the pavilion in the fairgrounds there. I'm looking around, and everybody's 175. A big guy in that dressing room is 200. I said, "Shit." I said to Bush, "Look at these guys. There's no big guys in this territory." And then I went out just before bell time and had a look out in the arena, in the pavilion. The place is jammed. And that night it was Marty. That was another Englishman against Dynamite Kid in a cage match. And that's the first time I saw Tommy come off the cage, from the top of the cage. He slammed the guy across the other side of the ring and came right across the ring with that flying headbutt. Mm-hmm. And I said, and now the whole style had changed there. From before it was, vicious and blood and guts when I was there in the early 80s, with in the early 70s with Abdullah and John Quinn and, and us there was, blood and guts and vicious and it was wrestling, but, it was a roughhouse style. Now I'm coming back and it's the English style, chain wrestling, and a lot of us, it wasn't so much in the ropes, but it was, moving around from hold to hold. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was a complete different style then. But of course, the guys were much smaller, so they could do more of that flying stuff.
Yeah. Now, did you like to work that style, or did you think, because you guys are a different style, then you guys can, contrast with them, so it's also a good fit?
No, mate. I was brought up English style. Mm-hmm. New Zealand was a part of the British Commonwealth, and when I first started, I started in 1962. Butcher Me never teamed up. We started teaming up now and again in 66. Wrestling went full-time, 7 days a week, and 66. 62 to 66, if an American come over, or a European or Canadian, as an Andre come over, the Giant come over in 60, earlier in the 60s and that, and he came over for, 2 months. He worked 3 days a week and 3 days the next week. Maybe 6 weeks he was there. That's when I first met Andre. And then later on, 66, 67, it became full-time. It became a full-time business, 7 days a week in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. And then 68 was the first time the Butcher Me went away out of the country. We've been to Australia and back, which is only 2 hours on the plane. But we hadn't been. We went to Singapore, Bangkok, and around, Indonesia and all those islands, Penang, Kuala Lumpur, right up Malaysia, right up to Shanghai, and all those Asian places. Anyhow, mm-hmm. They were run, and we never came over to North America till 71, end of 71. So it was British style. When I started, mate, you couldn't kick or you couldn't punch. You had to do British uppercuts or you had to do leg drops.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the police would come in the ring and stop the bout.
That's wild. Do you think
yeah,
that's...
we worked, and then it was it was very similar to what the Hearts had in the territory at the time. More chain moving from move to move, take them down on the mat, work away, and then up. It wasn't so much of hitting the ropes as we learned later. The ropes became a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't want to see so much. As the time went on, people didn't want to see so much groundwork on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to see guys up, take a bump down, then back up again. They wanted to see action.
Do you think that's why you had such longevity, or still do have longevity, because you can work all these different styles, and that's what...
Yeah, well, I just changed. Butch and me, when we went up to Vince said to us, he says, I want to sort of change you guys. I want to bring you in as good guys. And of course, I piped up and says, well, bring us in as the bad guys and turn us good guys.
Mm.
And you can't tell Caesar what to do. It's his way or the highway.
Uh-huh.
And he said, I'm going to bring you in. And Butch said, put his nose about 12 inches away from Vince and said, if you can make these faces, baby face, go for it. And then Vince came back and says, hey, the noggins on my top baby faces are not the sweetest. And he said, look at Duggan's noggin. Look at Hulk's noggin. Look at Randy's. He says, they're not the prettiest. And he says, they're my baby faces. They're my good guys. And then hence they gave us the name change, and we came up with a gimmick. They wanted us between the Moondogs and the Sheepherders, and Butch said to me, well, the Sheepherders have been on TBS since 1980, and the Moondogs have been on USA Network, which are they're both satellite channels, cable. And they said, well, let's create we created the marching and the licking.
Did you have fun doing that? Because it seemed like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did, mate. We had fun. I'm a heel at heart still, mate, underneath it all. It's funny, but you go from NWA was wrestling, WWE became a celebrity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In that era, it was in the late 80s. We went in there in 88, and that Mania was 85, 86. Now it's getting up, and you're a different thing. You're at Sportsman of the Year dinners. You're doing commercials. You're doing this, that. You're on talk shows. It was a different kettle of fish from just being in the ring.
Yeah. What did you think when you guys, when you saw your action figures?
Oh, great, mate. When you first did our action figures, so great. And they still put them out. Over the last 10 years, I've had legend contracts, and every last 212, 213, that's when they put the last new action figure. When they put T-shirts out of us this year and stuff, they put legend stuff out for us all the time. Yeah.
Do you think like the network and showing all the older wrestling stuff that helps keep you guys to a new generation of fans?
Yes. It's funny. It's funny you said that. Hulk Hogan I have a gym on Clearwater Beach, and Hogan's Beach Shop, not his bar and restaurant, but Hogan's Beach Shop is memorabilia shop is right underneath me. And Terry came back from the last WrestleMania. I was down there too, but I was working for another company. I wasn't working for WWF and that. And he said to me, it's funny, the new guys don't even know how. They saw T and they wanted to know what Mr. T had to do with wrestling. They saw guys who from the 80s, they wanted to know what they were doing there. They didn't know that they were the root of what they're making their money from now. You know what I mean? This new generation, the new generation was born in the 90s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were born in the 90s, and that, the 23, 22, and they're learning of that, and they don't even know that like Savage, of course, Hulk, Roddy Piper, they were the Iron Sheik. You've always got to have the bad guys to make the good guys. Like Piper was a bad guy, the Sheik was the bad guy, and Randy and Hulk were the good guys. They were the roots from that. That's why our business is still going.
Do you still watch like current wrestling?
No, only when someone rings me up and tells me someone's on, mate. I've been behind the scenes. Not many people know this, but I've been behind the scenes since the early 80s. I was a booker. I started booking territories for Joe Blanchard in 83. And that consists of running 7 days a week. Sometimes we ran 8 shows. I ran 8 shows a week and writing TV each week. And we were writing for English and Spanish then. And then the last booking job I had was down in Puerto Rico. I just spent 12 years in Puerto Rico. 8 of those years I was working for Victor Quinones, IWA, and I had 4 hours of television on Telemundo, which is NBC, owned by NBC, and I wrote 4 hours of television and ran 4 to 5 shows a week every week. So I'm televisioned out, mate. So when I saw this Brian get a good push, I know Brian for 10 years, and Cesario, I know his real name, Brian Danielson, or it's Daniel Bryanson, or whatever.
Yeah, Brian Danielson in WWE. Daniel Bryan, or I don't know. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, his real name
I'm
was Brian.
confused now myself.
Anyhow, I know them and that, and I saw them get a break, so I had to see, because he was always a clean cut, a great wrestler. Could wrestle with a 150-pounder, and he could wrestle with a 300-pounder. He's got great psychology, for the big man and the smaller guy. And I saw him, and then when they grew his hair and his beard, gave him a hell of a character. And then with the verbal thing, yes, and that just went bang.
Yeah.
And the other guy, Cesario, what a hand he is.
Yeah, I'm always I've seen him in Ring of Honor and for years here, in Massachusetts, and I was always a huge fan of him. I always thought he stood out above everybody, and it's really cool we had him on the show and everything. It's just really cool as a fan too to see these guys who I don't think many people would have expected Daniel Bryan to be world champ in WWE or even get to WWE, and to see him there and being the world champ, that's really cool.
It was great, mate. But they moved a character, before he was a boy next door look, and now he looks like a troll.
Yeah. But
he's a great guy, and both guys are great personality, and they're good guys, mate. Mm-hmm. Talking about ROH, and then I worked, a friend of mine owned it for 10 years, Kerry Silken, and I worked on that show and ran around the country a few times with him, so I know a lot of those guys, in the other part, in the Shield.
Oh, Danny Ambrose.
From there, quite a few guys have come from ROH to WWE.
Yeah, Seth Rollins.
I'm going to say a lot more is going to come from that company.
Yeah, I think that's really what's making WWE right now different. Is they're using a lot of guys that they might not have used, about 10 years ago. It's the guys coming up from Ring of Honor and other independents, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, and TNA too. If you took the ROH guys at TNA, there wouldn't have been many guys that wouldn't have lasted, because the whole at the start, all the main players, Samoan and AJ and what's the name, Austin Aries. He trains at my gym, Austin. He's one of the main players there, and he's one hell of a hand too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed you had a picture up on Twitter not too long ago where CM Punk had stopped into your gym.
Yeah, they all came down for Luke Gallows' wedding. He had it on the beach just down the road from me. The WWE guys and ROH guys and some TNA guys all flew in for it.
Oh, very cool. Somebody in the chat room, Shaheen, wants to know what did you think of your short run in ECW?
No, that was one weekend, and they booked
it was quite a run.
And that was a tryout at the Dudleys.
Uh-huh.
Dudleys from down under. And at the time, we'd been out from Vince for a couple of years, and I'd been getting a lot of promoters booking us regularly, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden, they brought us in. I had a free weekend, and Paulie brought us in for that, and he says, I'd like you to start, say, in 6 weeks' time, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He said, a week later, he said, we'd like you to start. All of a sudden, the following week, the next week, he says, I need you now. And, the guys, independent promoters that I've been working for and making a living for the last 2 years, I'm old school. I can't say F you. I said, sorry, I can't work. These guys, we're the main stars on their billboard, on their marquee. If we pull out, we'll screw them completely, and they've been good to us for the last 2 years. So he says, the word came back, well, I don't need you then.
So, yeah. All right.
So that was the run with, but I don't understand him. He had all of a sudden, I guess he was rewriting his television, rewriting something, and he just wanted us, they'd called us on Tuesday, and they wanted us there on Friday.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you know Paul before that? Because he'd been around wrestling for a long time.
Yeah, I'd met him a few times, but it wasn't until I went and work for that weekend that I met them. Met them all.
Yeah. Do you think that would?
I was from another era, mate. He was from the '90s era. Mm-hmm. I go back to the I go back to the '70s. In the States. Yeah.
Now you talked about. Go on. I'm sorry.
Sorry, where you go, mate?
I was just saying you talked earlier about Puerto Rico, and I was just wondering, you always hear about how rowdy the crowds are. Would that be do you think that they have the rowdiest crowds any place you've ever worked?
Yeah, but, for a small crowd, I'm going to say this. They've got a tunnel, and there's not a wide, it's just a tunnel crowd. What I mean by a tunnel, the same crowd every week. ROH, for the amount of people they have a noisy audience. Mm-hmm. If you go to their shows, and even when they heal ones, the people just keep telling, we want more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for Blood and Guts in the days, we did it. This is an old thing, but I shouldn't bring it up all the time. We did a $250,000 house with $5 tickets in '83 in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
How's that?
Yeah.
The ringside, I'll say we had a lot of ringside. It was in a ballpark, but they were $20, $25, and the rest of the tickets were $5 and that. That was the days when we had, I was a booker there too, had Brody and Hansen against Abdullah and Carlos Colon. Mm. And those days, and then when Brody got killed, the houses went to, I was already with Vince when Brody got killed.
Yeah.
But the houses went to the ground, and it wasn't, pardon me, mate, it wasn't until Victor Quinones opened opposition. Victor, when Brody got killed, Victor was a small percentage of that office, and he pulled out and went to Japan. And then he opened up Wings in Japan and IWA in Japan. Those were the shows where the rings blew up, and that was Terry Funk and Mick Foley. I don't know whether you ever saw those matches.
Yes, yeah.
Wild matches.
Yeah, I used to get the tapes back in those days, yep.
Yeah, that was Victor Quinones. And he came back, and in 98 he went and worked he came back from 88 to 98 he was in Japan. And he came back and he was a booker for the Japanese and the Mexicans when Vince had the juniors.
Okay.
Taka. And Jerry, and all those Mexicans and that. He was booking all those, and then 2000, 2001, he opened up IWA in Puerto Rico, and that's when I went into book for him then. Mm-hmm. Dutch jumped from Carlos to Victor too. Mm-hmm. Dutch Mantel now is working for WWE as someone's manager.
Yeah, Zeb Coulter. I've had Dutch on the show many times. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Now, did you know Bruiser Brody well?
Yeah, his wife. I still talk to Barbara, his wife. He married a Kiwi mate, from my country.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, Bruiser and me travel on the road a lot. I had him with me in Texas. Territories I booked, I took him there. I took him and Abdullah because they do nothing but money. Mm-hmm.
So, that must have been hard for you then when you found out what happened to Bruiser.
Oh, yeah, the story about that. And I don't want to bring up the names, but I know the other guy very well, too, who's involved in that situation. And it's sad, but since then I've actually worked with him in the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And now you said you traveled with Bruiser, and he drew money everywhere and stuff, but did you also know that he could be hard to work with if you were the booker?
Oh,
Bruiser Brody? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know better than anyone, mate. Shit, we need it. Frank would come in and do an angle with you. Set up for a big show in the TV studios in Texas. He's from San Antonio, and I was there for 2 years as the booker for Joe Blanchard.
Mm-hmm.
So he would come and do an angle with us in the Junction, which was a little studio. We held 400 people. We used to shoot every Monday night. The TV used to show on 2 different, the English network and the Spanish network. But Frank would go to St. Louis, shoot an angle there. He'd go to Vern, shoot an angle there, and go to Puerto Rico. And then he'd play them all against each other for money.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd have him advertised. We'd have him advertised coming in for a big show, and he'd go for someone else. The other guy, he'd say yes to us, and then the other guy would offer him more. And a couple of the towns I had, they went from 2,000 a weekly day town. That was good those days in the early 80s. 2,000. Mm-hmm. 1,800, 1,500, 2,000 was a good house. And on local TV, off local TV, and he came and he went somewhere else, and all of a sudden it took me one town took me to get up to that, even to 1,000, took me over 6 months. It was a weekly town. It took me over 6 months to get it back up to 1,000 people.
Wow.
It went down from 1,500 to 200 because he no-showed. So I know about, and that's only one. I know about Frank. Yeah. But I love the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was money for himself, but he was a businessman for himself. But when he came in, he worked hard. In the ring. Mm-hmm. Boy, he had his chops and kicks. You knew they were coming too. Let me know. Let me tell you.
Now, you mentioned Blanchard a few times, and I had him on the show several times, and he mentioned when he went to WWE with WWF with Arn Anderson, they were the Brainbusters, that he did not like working with you guys as the Bushwhackers. Do you remember your matches with them?
Oh yeah. They were wrestlers, mate. They didn't. We were a gimmick.
Yeah.
And Tully were wrestlers. They didn't like. They were wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they put against gimmicks. We were entertainers.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't anything personally. They just didn't like that to work that style.
No. I know Tully well. From years and years because I worked against him when he was a good guy and I was a heel in the Southern Territory. That's the first thing I did was I did put Joe in hospital. And then, his dad on Nationwide on the TV, that was when we had USA Network at the time. Mm-hmm. And Tully came to the rescue, and hence we started off. Butch was back home at the time trying to get a marriage together, and that's how we started I started an angle off in Texas against Tully and that. And then, they liked to wrestle that, and we were clowns, if you like to say. A lot of people say, how could you go from the Bushwhackers, who was a hardcore before hardcore, wrestling hardcore, roughhouses, to do what you were doing, comedy and clown. That was easy, money.
Yeah. Did you have fun filming those vignettes, and how much of those were, I think you said earlier that Vince just pretty much let you guys do what you wanted. So when you were doing those vignettes...
Yeah, the vignettes, no, he wrote the vignettes, mate. And then Bruce, at the time, brother Bruce Pritchard was a big part of it, and he oversaw those vignettes we did. That's what sort of changed us. People didn't realize it was the same guys who were seen on WTBS, which is TBS now. Mm-hmm. We were seen on there every week, and then all of a sudden they see us on USA Network, and they can't believe it's the same guys.
Yeah. Now, I also want to ask about Johnny Ace, because now he's pretty powerful in wrestling, and he was your flag bearer. Did you ever expect him to go on to be a big part of wrestling?
Johnny always had a great brain for the business. Mm-hmm. His animal was already started, and his brother too. He's got another brother who was in the business. I forget his brother's wrestling name.
I'm not positive either.
Yeah, anyhow, he was a bigger guy. And Johnny always had the psychology. Johnny has a business degree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why he was always about business and that. And he picked up, of course, and then he started, Dusty threw with us and says, you know, go with the Sheepherders, they'll teach you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was with us, and then for about 6 months, then he went into 6 bands and all that sort of stuff. And then we left for Vince and that, and Shane Douglas and him. When we left WCW, NWA was bought out by Ted, and they became the dynamic dudes.
Yeah, on the skateboard.
Then he got his break in Japan. And he always kept saying to me, I want to come back to the States. And I told him, stay in Japan as long as you can. You've always got the States after.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a 10-year run. And he was Barbara's booker in the end, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was Barbara's right-hand man. And he made it, and then when he came back here, he actually got the job with Turner when Turner was about to throw the towel in. Mm-hmm. So he was there and took over. You know, when Vince took over, John had to do all the acting of all the guys and just keep the handful that Vince wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, he got a bad name to start with in the business in the States.
Yeah.
No, you know, I knew he was always smart and business-wise, you know, the business side of things. Very smart at that.
How did it come?
He had a good run there.
Yeah. How did it come about for him to be the flag bearer? Like, whose idea was that? Or
No, we always had a flag bearer, mate.
Yeah.
You know, we always had that. It was always guys that wanted to groom.
Mm-hmm.
We had Jack Victory first, a long time ago, and then we had Rip Morgan, who was the nephew of Butch. Butch is his uncle. We actually brought Rip Morgan over. We actually brought Rip Morgan over to Puerto Rico, 73 or 74, and that was the first time. And you know, and Rip was 6'4", 6'5", 270 pounds, long hair. Him and Jack Victory had a run in WCW for about 2 years.
Yeah, I really liked that tag team. It was they were managed by Lord Littlebrook, I believe.
Littlebrook's a good old friend of mine from the 60s, too. Mm-hmm. He's British and that, and Littlebrook, God bless him, he's still alive, but he's got that
like dementia,
disease.
Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yeah, God bless him.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought that was a really underrated team, and I thought Lord Littlebrook was an excellent manager.
Yeah, there's 2 guys. We sort of helped Jack when he first started, but he'd already worked in Texas. But Bill Watts, we were working with Bill Watts at the time, doing all our own stuff there, and we took Jack as our pallbearer, our flag bearer, and then before that we had Ace, or was it after that? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So we had Ace with us. No, before. After that we had Ace, yeah. Mm. For the last 2 years when we left to go to Vince, that's when we left in that.
Yeah. You mentioned Bill Watts. He's a guy that people either really like or they really dislike. What are your thoughts on Bill Watts?
Well, I just saw him just recently at the Mid-South reunion
that's right.
at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he seemed a different man there. You know, I never had nothing to do with him. You know, I had one little sort of, really nothing to do. I came in there as the booker, and they didn't, they brought me in there as the booker, but they didn't fire the other booker. They wanted him to stand down.
Oh.
Stand down. And the other guy was Dickie Slater.
Mm-hmm.
And Dickie was an old friend of mine from Florida days in the early 80s. And, you know, when you come in as a booker, they usually get rid of the other booker. You know, he leaves the territory.
Right.
And I said, you know, if he's not finishing, they want him to stay there. If he's not finishing, I said, I'm not taking the book and that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a bad mistake, because then they bought Kim Mantell, and Kim Mantell had his own boys. He wanted to bring them from Texas. You know, when bookers come in, you take your own crew with you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And that is that. So we had a year run there, and that. But that's where Vince. You know, we were there when Vince, when the Crockers bought out the territory.
Mm-hmm.
They bought out, it was UWF.
Yeah.
And then we had a big run there with the Fantastics. Two little guys with big hearts.
Yeah, very. Yeah. Very underrated team, I think.
Yeah, Tommy Rogers and that. I remember having Bobby Fulton working for me in Texas. I met him with Bill Dundee in 1981 in Tennessee, and he was just a fat little boy, and then Billy got him down to 200 pounds, Dundee, and started grooming him. Then when I was in Texas, and that, Billy sent him, he said, take him for me and that. I brought him in there, and we groomed him, and when I left, he was working right up the card. You know, from 3 years he'd come, he had a good heart. And then Tommy, I'd known for a while too, Tommy Rogers. They worked together. So I met them as a team in Bill Watts' territory. You know, I'd worked with the Rock and Roll Express around the place, but not with them. And we had a hell of a run with them. In the end, they built a wire cage to go around the ring. They built a barbed wire cage to bolt to the corner post and take out the ropes and that. And we had 37 barbed wire matches in 45 days. Wow. How's that?
That's crazy. What is it? How to ask this? What is it like being in a barbed wire match? And did you ever get any injury, like a serious injury, in a barbed wire match?
Well, I had a lot of stuff. I don't know whether you go for this, but in Puerto Rico, I was in a lot of wire matches and that. You know, not a cage, but a lot of hardcore matches. And the doctor would come while Butch was in the ring, the doctor would stitch me up on the apron, shoot me up, wash it out, and stitch me up, and I'd go, and while the fans are watching on the ringside, and then I carry on.
Wow.
You know, crazy. Sounds crazy, but that's how it was, especially in Puerto Rico. It's wild and woolly.
Yeah. Now, I know, now when you do a barbed wire match, do you get a special type of barbed wire?
No. All you try to buy to get the galvanized one, but usually make sure you've got plenty of alcohol. After you get out of a wire match, we douche your body with alcohol.
Yeah. I also want to ask you, because I think you still have the record. It might have been beaten recently, but the record at Royal Rumble, 4-second. Is that better than working WrestleMania for like 50 minutes?
Butch was in the same match. Butch worked 25 minutes. He made the same pay. He was hot. Yeah, I marched in. God bless his soul. Earthquake picked me up when I got in the ring. And that, I watch it now. We could have done it better. You know, he could have picked me up from the outside of it, but I actually went under the ropes. He took me across. I landed on my feet and marched back. And I think they've broken it so many times since then.
Yeah.
I think they've broken it so many times. I think the Italian guy, Santino.
Yes.
Yeah, who I love.
I love Santino too, yeah.
I think that guy's full of talent.
Mm-hmm. They gave him they almost, I forget which pay-per-view it was, but they almost put the title on him. And I remember the crowd was going crazy. Like, they actually really wanted him to win the belt. And I think he's so entertaining too.
You know something? Nobody, I don't know whether the world knows this, but underneath that show was one hell of an amateur wrestler.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yes, very. Yeah, and that, God bless him. It's very hard. You know, the guys who that, I always look at Kurt Angle and Ken Shamrock, guys who turn around and adapt to professional like those two did. Mm-hmm. You know, there's not many, you know, who really adapted to and made a big name for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and you've got to give it to Kurt Angle with all the neck injuries he's had. He still goes out there, and you know, see him in the dressing room or see him walking down the street, and you see him in the ring. You think, what the hell? Like as soon as he walks through those ropes, the light goes on and he's away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he still has amazing matches anytime he wrestles.
Yep.
I just want to mention that June 21st, Warwick, Rhode Island, you'll be at New England Fanfest in the Hall of Fame, and the website is on our website, or you can go to NEPW, as in New England Pro Wrestling, HOF, as in Hall of Fame, .weebly.com, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see you.
Mate, I don't think I've seen such a big lineup of stars on the East Coast in all my life, especially in the Northeast. And I've been to Madison Square Garden at Battle Royals with stars, but the lineup they've got there in the New England Fan Fest, folks, go to their website. You hear the gentleman say it? Say it again, mate.
It's NEPW as in New England Pro Wrestling, HOF as in Hall of Fame, .weebly.com. And if you can't spell, we'll have a link right on the website you're listening to right now in your head, and you can click on it and you'll go there like magic. But yeah, it's cool because there's people from all different eras. You got Harley Race, you got yourself, and then you've got newer people. So it's a huge lineup. Another Harley Race was another guy who was known for the diving headbutt.
Who's that?
Harley Race.
Harley Race, yeah, Harley. I met Harley in the early 70s, the Stu Hart territory, but he was wild and woolly then. God bless him too. When I saw him last time, but he's still mobile and getting around. Boy, he was one hell of a champion.
Yeah, and a lot
I saw him some great matches with Jack Briscoe. The names of the people I've seen him. I worked around different countries with him. You know, when he was NWA, I was taken to the countries, to some of the countries where he was working. You know, they used to fly to him, and people don't realize they'd fly 24 hours, get off the plane, put the boots on, he'd have a few drinks, and then he'd get the midnight flight to fly through the night to go to the next town. You know, and these countries are, 20 hours apart, flying.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to give it to him. He was a trooper and a good champion.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe people consider him the best champion, or up there anyway.
Yeah, one of the best, mate. I got to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Today they haven't had those roads. The roads of those days was a hard road, mate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you said flying 20 hours. What would have been? What's the longest you've been on the road in one stretch?
No, going down under. New Zealand is 17 hours ahead of U.S. So a lot of people, when the 2000 came, a lot of people went down under, partied, and that's when that Concorde was still going. There was quite a few, 6 Concordes or something. They were going over there, and then partying, coming back to the States, and then getting the start of the 2000 twice. Opening of the 2000 twice.
Yeah. That's
New Zealand is the way. The next part to New Zealand is the South Pole. On our South Island in New Zealand, we have a base, American base, where they fly down over Antarctica all the time.
Mm-hmm. That's very wild. For a while you were billed as being from Australia, I think.
What's that, mate?
I think for a little while you were billed as being from Australia in WWE.
No, I missed everything you said there, mate. You go out and come back.
All right. Well, I was saying, for a little while, you were actually billed as being from Australia in the WWE. Was that hard for you guys, being,
No,
New Zealand?
From down under, mate.
Just down under is good enough.
Over here, Aussies and Kiwis are brothers and sisters. Down under, we're arch enemies because of sport. Down there. But over here, to me, we're brothers. We're brothers, and I have Aussies come in my gym and that, and it's good to see an Aussie now and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but definitely check out the website. There's so many people here. Larry Zbyszko will be there. What's also cool is, I think, which I don't think other Hall of Fames do, is they have guys. I don't know the correct terminology underneath guys, enhancement talents. Some people say job guys, but they're showing them respect and putting some of those guys in the Hall of Fame that did that for a long time.
It's great. You know what you just said, mate? It's those guys that make the people the next level to go to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And Terry always said, Hulk always said this, and too, Ray Stevens and Blackjack Mulligan. I remember the meeting in Crockett's years ago. He told Jim to pay the boys underneath. He said, we wouldn't be where we are now if it wasn't for those guys in the first and second match, because they put the guys over in the middle of the card, and the middle of the card put the guys over on top of the card.
Yeah.
And you've got to give all respect to those guys who work there. There's been a lot of hard grafters that I've known and never got the break. You know what I mean? We were lucky. When we came over here, we were foreigners, and we carried the New Zealand flag around, and we were on top from day one. But a lot of guys in this country just never got the break.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of them had long careers and traveled the same roads, and
yeah, that's what
cool.
I said. That's what Ray Stevens, who was one of the greatest, him and Pat Patterson, I would say, one of the greatest tag teams of all times. You know, today there's not the tag teams like there was years ago, like the Funks, the Briscoes, and that. Today Vince puts two guys together. These teams are sort of born at the hip. You know what I mean? Joined at the hip.
Do you still keep in touch with Butch?
Yes, I call him every week, mate. He left me in 202, and I was down in 212, 213 to do a documentary. It will be coming out next year called Wrestling Spectacular, and that's 100 years of wrestling on the mat. I'm the only guy from the 60s and maybe the 70s who's still in the ring. You know, still in the ring from New Zealand.
That's pretty wild. That's 6. You've wrestled in 6 decades.
Yeah, Pat O'Connor was a Kiwi too, mate. You know, an old world champion, but he didn't run so long. Remember Pat O'Connor? He was in St. Louis.
I know the name, definitely.
In the end,
yeah.
When there were still territories, he was a Kiwi too.
Very cool. I know Lou Thez, I think, wrestled in possibly 7 decades. So I think you're right. You're right up there.
Yeah, Lou was wrestling in 70. He still did a show in the 70s in Japan.
Yeah.
He was a great man. People don't know him, but you know, I knew Lou because Lou used to stay at Tully's place in Texas. Lou used to cook barbecue for us, and we used to. Trouble is, he used to referee too on the loop and that. Come on the road with us. Him and Joe Blanchard were good buddies. And old Lou's elbows, when they caught you in the ear, they rocked you. So he was a great man.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Been a pleasure to talk to you, sir, and I hope to see you the 21st. We'll all be up there, rocking and rolling, slamming and banging. New England Fanfest. Looking forward, mate.
Excellent. We'll be
Have a good night.
You too.
And all your fans out there, mate, come up and see the Bushwhacker. I'll shake your hand, and I won't give you a head lick. How about that, mate? Want to see you all come up and see me there. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Mate.
This is Tully Blanchard, one of the original members of the Four Horsemen with Ric Flair and Arn and Ole Anderson. And you know what? With this world of high technology, you've got to go to the best. You've got to be the best. You've got to have the best equipment, just like the Four Horsemen always told you. InYourHeadOnline.com. That's the premier place to get your information about the wrestling business today, tomorrow, and even in the past. This is your place for the best, by the best, with the best.